Imagine a world where your stuff never breaks. Okay, that's impossible. But what if, instead of tossing things out and spending a fortune on replacements, you could fix them up, make them last, and save a ton of cash? That's exactly how the Amish do it. No, they're not secretly hoarding piles of junk. They've mastered the lost art of repairing instead of replacing. And guess what? It works. From boots to barns, to even their buggiest, the Amish have a fix-it mindset that could save you thousands. Stick around, because some of these will blow your mind. Number 1. Shoes and boots. When most people notice a hole in their sneakers, their immediate response is often to toss them out and purchase a new pair. However, the Amish take a far more practical approach. Rather than discarding their worn footwear, they either visit a skilled cobbler or handle the repairs themselves. Whether it's adding new soles, reinforcing stitching, or waterproofing leather, they make their shoes last for years. Meanwhile, we're out here buying a new pair every few months like money grows on trees. But wait, it gets better. The Amish don't just fix shoes when they break, they take steps to prevent wear and tear before it even happens. They use beeswax and oils to condition leather, swap out laces before they snap, and even modify insoles for better support. Plus, they favor well-crafted shoes that can actually handle a few rounds of repairs, unlike those flimsy fast fashion kicks that disintegrate after a rainy day. Ever heard of a Goodyear welt? It's a fancy way of saying shoes that can be resoled multiple times, and it's a common feature in Amish-made footwear. Meanwhile, most of us are stuck in a cycle of buying, breaking, and buying again. And let's talk about kids' shoes. If you've got little ones, you know they outgrow shoes at warp speed. The Amish? They pass down well-made footwear, adjusting straps or adding inserts to make them last a little longer. It's smart, sustainable, and saves a boatload of cash. Plus, there's something deeply satisfying about bringing an old pair of boots back to life. Have you ever polished scuffed leather and watched it shine like new? Or stitched up a rip and felt like a total DIY genius? The Amish embrace that feeling every day, turning worn out into good as new. Number 2. Clothes. Amish clothes are basically the OG version of slow fashion. They don't just patch holes, they transform worn-out clothes into something new. Torn shirt? It's a cleaning rag now. Dressed too small? Alter it. What if, instead of stuffing our closets with fast fashion, we got creative and stretched the life of our wardrobes? But it doesn't stop there. Amish families don't just repair clothes, they repurpose them in ways that make you wonder why you ever threw anything away. That old coat with a busted zipper? Swap it out or sew on buttons, and suddenly, it's got a whole new life. A worn-out pair of jeans, perfect for cutting into patches for other clothes, turning into a sturdy tote bag or even quilting. They see potential in every fabric scrap, and honestly, it's kind of genius. And don't think it's all boring black and white attire either. While the Amish dress modestly, they are masters at fabric recycling. An old dress becomes an apron, worn-out pants turn into patches for newer clothes, and a faded quilt can be revitalized with a few fresh pieces of fabric. It's like upcycling, but Amish style. They also teach their kids from a young age how to sew, mend, and create clothing adjustments. Imagine if we all had that skill instead of defaulting to tossing a shirt the second a button pops off. Maybe it's time we took a page from their book and learned the basics, because knowing how to fix a busted seam is basically a life hack at this point. And let's not forget hand-me-downs. While many of us think of them as a last resort, the Amish see them as smart resource management. Clothes get passed down, adjusted, and refitted until they've truly lived their full life. And when they've reached the point of no return, that's when they get turned into quilts, rags, or stuffing for pillows and cushions. It makes you wonder, How much money do we waste on new clothes when we could just fix, alter, or reinvent what we already have? Number 3. Tools. Instead of replacing a broken hammer or drill, Amish craftsmen repair their tools, sometimes even reforging metal parts. Meanwhile, most of us panic buy a brand new set because we need it now. What if we learn to maintain our tools as they do? A little oil, a sharpening stone, and suddenly that rusty handsaw is good as new. But here's where it gets even more impressive. Amish craftsmen don't just repair tools, they make them better. They reinforce weak handles, reshape worn-out edges, and even create custom attachments to improve function. Imagine if, instead of running to the hardware store every time something breaks, we took the time to actually understand our tools and how to fix them. Game changer, right? Even power tools get the Amish treatment. You'd think that because they avoid electricity, they wouldn't mess with modern tools. But oh, they do. Many Amish communities use compressed air-powered tools, and when those break down, they don't just toss them. They rebuild the components, replace bearings, and fine-tune them like an old-school mechanic fixing up a classic car. And let's talk about farm equipment. While most farmers would replace a faulty part, the Amish will fabricate their own using scrap metal or repurposed parts from other machines. This means they can keep a single piece of machinery running for decades while the rest of us are stuck in a cycle of buying, breaking, and upgrading. What's the takeaway? Maintenance is everything. If you treat your tools like disposable junk, they'll act like it. But if you give them a little care, cleaning, oiling, sharpening, reinforcing, they'll last generations. So maybe it's time to grab a sharpening stone instead of a shopping cart. Just saying. Number 4. Furniture. That wobbly chair you're thinking of tossing? The Amish would reinforce the legs, tighten the joints, and polish it up like a brand new piece. Ever wonder why their handcrafted furniture lasts generations? Because they don't believe in planned obsolescence. Maybe we should stop buying cheap, disposable furniture and start fixing what we have. But Amish furniture repair isn't just about fixing, it's about preserving craftsmanship. If a table gets scratched, they don't hide it under a tablecloth. They refinish the wood. A cracked dresser drawer? They reinforce it with dovetail joints, making it even sturdier than before. And they don't just buy new cushions when a chair seat wears out. They reupholster it using high-quality materials that outlast anything from a factory. Here's a wild thought. Instead of replacing a coffee table that's out of style, what if we refinished it with a fresh stain or paint? The Amish understand that wood furniture isn't just functional, it's an heirloom. That's why their pieces last for generations, passed down from grandparents to grandchildren. Maybe it's time we rethink furniture the way the Amish do, less about convenience and more about longevity. If you invest in a quality piece and take care of it, it will take care of you. Number 5. Appliances. Okay, so the Amish aren't exactly hoarding smart fridges, but they do have gas-powered washing machines, kerosene refrigerators, and hand-crank tools that they maintain meticulously. Instead of throwing out a faulty fridge, they replace the cooling unit. Broken washing machine? Repair it. Imagine if we stopped upgrading every time something kind of broke. The savings would be insane. And it's not just about fixing, it's about adapting. The Amish modify appliances to fit their off-grid lifestyle, swapping electric motors for compressed air or gas power. It's DIY innovation at its finest. Ever seen a refrigerator that runs on propane? The Amish have. And when parts wear out, they don't just shrug and buy new. They replace gaskets, clean burners, and fine-tune every component to keep it running smoothly. They even refurbish old appliances, buying second-hand machines and retrofitting them for long-term use. So while the rest of us are out here debating whether we need a fridge with Wi-Fi, The Amish are busy making sure their essentials last decades. Number 6. Fences. If you've ever driven through Amish country, you've seen their pristine wooden fences stretching for miles. But what you don't see, how often they fix them. A broken post isn't a reason to replace an entire fence. It's a reason to grab some nails and a hammer and get to work. Simple, effective, and way cheaper. And it's not just about slapping a board in place and calling it a day. The Amish are strategic about their fence maintenance. They inspect for weak spots regularly, tighten loose nails, and replace individual planks before small problems turn into big and expensive ones. Prevention is key, and they've mastered the art of keeping things standing strong. Ever dealt with a leaning fence? Most people would assume it's time to rip the whole thing out. The Amish? Number. They reinforce the structure with additional bracing, reset posts in concrete or packed dirt, and sometimes even repurpose older wood from other projects. If one section is beyond saving, they don't panic. They harvest usable pieces to reinforce the rest of the fence. That's next-level resourcefulness. And let's talk about the wood itself. Amish fences aren't just built with any old lumber. They use high-quality, durable wood like oak or locust, which naturally resists rot and pests. Instead of relying on expensive chemical treatments, they opt for natural solutions like linseed oil or vinegar-based preservatives to protect against the elements. Smart, right? But when a fence has truly reached the end of its lifespan, the Amish don't just toss the materials in a landfill. Nope, they'll reuse what they can, turning old planks into barn siding, chicken coops, or even firewood. Every single part gets a second life, and that's why you rarely see discarded wood piles in Amish communities. Meanwhile, most of us, one broken panel, and we're on the phone getting quotes for an entire fence replacement. And those quotes? Let's be real. Fence installations can cost thousands. Imagine cutting that cost by simply learning a few repair tricks. A hammer, some replacement boards, and a little elbow grease could save you a fortune. Even their gates are built to last. Instead of cheap hinges that rust and break, they use heavy-duty, handcrafted ones that can withstand years of wear and tear. And if something does start to fail, they reinforce it, swap out a single component, or adjust the alignment. Small fixes that prevent a total rebuild. It makes you wonder, how much money and wood are we wasting because we don't take the time to repair instead of replace? It's time we stop looking at fences as disposable structures and start treating them like the Amish do. Durable, repairable, and built to last for generations. Number 7. Barns. Amish barn raising isn't just about building, it's about preserving. Instead of demolishing a barn when it's worn out, they reinforce beams, replace roof panels, and keep it standing for generations. It's not just cost-effective, it's community-driven. Maybe we don't all have barns, but we sure do have garages, sheds, and homes that could use some preventative care before we jump to expensive replacements. For the Amish, a barn isn't just a structure. It's history, tradition, and a symbol of hard work. When a barn starts showing its age, they don't tear it down at the first sign of trouble. They diagnose the problem. A sagging roof? They add new supports. A rotting beam? They replace it, often using reclaimed wood from older structures. They see value where most of us see an excuse to build new. And let's talk about barn raising itself, one of the most famous Amish traditions. If a barn needs serious repairs or a full rebuild, the entire community comes together to make it happen. Dozens of families pitch in, completing in a matter of days what might take contractors weeks or months. And here's the kicker. It's not just about getting free labor. It's about shared skills, knowledge, and a deep sense of responsibility for maintaining what's already there. Think about it. How many times have we called in a professional for something we might have been able to fix ourselves with a little guidance? The Amish approach repairs with the mindset that most things can be fixed, as long as you have the patience and know-how. And if they don't know how, they learn from someone who does. And barns aren't just barns in the Amish world. When a barn reaches the end of its usable life, it doesn't just go away. Salvaged wood becomes furniture, fences, flooring, or even another barn. Even the metal from roofing or fasteners is repurposed. Nothing goes to waste. And here's something wild. Some Amish barns are over 100 years old and still standing strong. Why? Because they were built with longevity in mind and maintained with constant care. Instead of waiting for disaster to strike, the Amish proactively inspect their barns, reinforcing weak spots before they become major issues. Cracked foundation? Reinforce it before it crumbles. Leaky roof? Patch it before it turns into full-scale water damage. It's a mindset shift. Maintenance is easier and cheaper than replacement. So whether it's your garage, your shed, or even just a worn-out fence, think twice before tearing it down. A little TLC could extend its life by decades, just like the Amish do with their barns. Number 8. Wagons and buggies. Yes, the Amish repair their buggies. And let's be real, most of us won't be fixing up a horse-drawn carriage anytime soon. But their mindset applies to our modern wheels. Instead of trading in a car for the latest model, what if we actually learn to maintain it better? Oil changes, tire rotations, minor fixes. Basic car maintenance could save thousands over the years. Amish buggies are built to endure rough terrain, harsh weather, and decades of daily use. They don't just slap a coat of paint on them and call it a day. Every part is regularly inspected. Wooden frames are reinforced, metal fittings are polished and replaced when needed, and wheels, oh, they don't just replace them when they get wobbly. They repair the spokes, reattach the rims, and balance them to keep things rolling smoothly. Now imagine if we treated our cars the same way. Instead of panicking over a check engine light, what if we learned how to troubleshoot basic issues? Instead of ignoring weird noises until the repair bill hits 4 figures, what if we caught small problems early? That's exactly how the Amish have kept their buggies running for decades. Routine upkeep, small repairs, and knowing when to swap out parts before things completely break down. And it's not just about saving money, it's about understanding the value of what you already own. Amish families don't see their buggies as disposable. They see them as investments, passed down through generations. Some families even own buggies that are over 50 years old, still going strong thanks to meticulous maintenance. At the end of the day, whether it's a buggy or a modern vehicle, the Amish prove that taking care of what you already own is a lost art, and one worth reviving. Number 9. Kitchenware. Ever noticed how Amish kitchens have cast iron everything? That's because they last. Instead of buying cheap pans that wear out in a year, they use cast iron skillets and stainless steel pots, seasoning and maintaining them for decades. Here's the thing. Modern kitchenware is designed to fail. Those non-stick pans, the coating scratches and peels, and suddenly you're eating more Teflon than actual food. Cheap aluminum pots, warped in no time. The Amish? They don't play that game. Their cookware is built to survive generations. A well-seasoned cast iron skillet can outlive its owner, passed down like a family heirloom. But it's not just about longevity, it's about performance. Cast iron and stainless steel cook differently. They hold heat better, distribute it evenly, and if taken care of properly, they develop a natural non-stick surface without questionable chemicals. No worrying about microplastics in your scrambled eggs, no constant repurchasing. Just solid, reliable cookware that only gets better with time. And let's talk maintenance. The Amish don't just toss a cast iron pan in the sink and hope for the best. They clean it properly, no soap, just hot water and a brush. They dry it immediately, coat it with a thin layer of oil and store it carefully to prevent rust. That little bit of extra care means the difference between a pan that lasts a lifetime and one that gets tossed in a year. It's not just pans either. Amish kitchens are filled with durable, well-maintained tools. Wooden spoons that are hand-sanded and oiled instead of being replaced. Knives that are sharpened instead of thrown away. And stoneware mixing bowls that won't shatter at the first sign of trouble. They prioritize quality from the start, and because of that, they don't constantly need to buy new things. Now let's be honest. Most of us have at least one drawer full of broken spatulas, dented baking sheets, and blunt knives that we keep meaning to replace. Maybe it's time to rethink that. Instead of going for the cheapest option every time, investing in high-quality kitchen tools could save us money in the long run. One solid chef's knife, well cared for, can last decades. A properly seasoned cast iron pan will cook better than any fancy nonstick gimmick. And best of all, no more throwing money at products designed to fail. So next time you're tempted to grab that cheap cookware set on sale, ask yourself, do you want to buy this again in a year? Or do you want something that will last for life? The Amish already know the answer, and honestly, they're onto something. Number 10. Houses. Instead of waiting for a house to fall apart and needing massive renovations, Amish homes are constantly maintained. A leaky roof gets patched, wooden siding gets treated, and foundation issues are fixed ASAP. If we took care of our homes like they do, we'd save a fortune on major repairs down the line. The Amish treat their homes the same way they treat everything else, with care, diligence, and a long-term mindset. There's no "we'll get to it later" attitude. If something needs attention, they fix it before it becomes a costly disaster. A loose shingle? Replaced before it turns into a full-blown leak. Cracking paint? Sanded down and refinished before the wood underneath starts rotting. It's about seeing problems before they escalate, something we could all benefit from. And let's talk about materials. Amish homes are built to last, using solid wood, handcrafted details, and time-tested techniques that put modern construction to shame. No cutting corners with cheap drywall or hollow-core doors. Their homes stand strong through storms, harsh winters, and decades of use. Meanwhile, the average modern home? Let's just say those thin walls and mass-produced materials aren't exactly built for the long haul. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Amish don't just maintain their homes, they improve them. They reinforce structures over time, swap out old materials for stronger ones, and even expand when needed. All without tearing everything down and starting over. Instead of taking out massive loans for renovations, they tackle projects piece by piece, keeping costs low and quality high. Smart, right? And let's not forget energy efficiency. While we're out here chasing the latest smart thermostats and high-tech insulation, the Amish rely on simple, effective strategies to keep their homes comfortable year-round. Thick walls for insulation, carefully placed windows for airflow, and wood-burning stoves that provide heat without an electricity bill. Imagine if we applied just a fraction of that thinking to our own homes. Lower costs, better efficiency, and a house that stands the test of time. One of the biggest takeaways? They don't just live in their homes, they take responsibility for them. Instead of relying on professionals for every little fix, they learn basic carpentry, plumbing, and repair skills. A squeaky door doesn't require a handyman, just a little lubricant and know-how. A drafty window doesn't mean a full replacement, just a new seal and some elbow grease. The result? A home that stays in top shape without constant, expensive outsourcing. So next time you see a little issue in your house, don't ignore it. Channel your inner Amish, grab some tools, and fix it before it becomes a money pit. What did we learn? The Amish aren't just frugal, they're smart. They don't throw things out just because they're a little worn. they make them last. And if we took a page from their book, we could save thousands. Shoes, furniture, tools, even houses. Everything has a second or third life if you're willing to fix it. So which of these are you going to start repairing instead of replacing? Drop a comment below, and if you enjoyed this, hit that like button. See you in the next one.